he claims to be for jobs and job creation and lifting up the middle class. I was on the North Dakota Public Service Commission when we cited the first Keystone Pipeline, the original Trans-Canada Keystone, through North Dakota. I saw the types of jobs that were created and supported. The pipeline folks themselves, the welders, the pipe fitters and the pipe layers, the backhoe operators. But then you have local businesses that benefit tremendously.
And we're back on America's Forum with Miranda Kahn, J.D. Hayworth. That was North Dakota Congressman Kevin Cramer earlier in this program explaining why he is for the new Keystone XL pipeline.
Yeah, you heard him mention the jobs it creates, but as it stands, the legislation sits on the president's desk awaiting likely a veto.
Joining us to discuss further the legislation, we're very pleased to welcome in California Congresswoman Mimi Walters. We really appreciate the time here on America's Forum.
Well, thanks so much for having me.
And your colleague, Congressman Cramer, represents North Dakota, but this bill and this Keystone Pipeline would benefit a whole lot of Americans. Why do you think the president is going to veto it?
It really is puzzling to me why the president would veto a piece of legislation that's going to create over 40,000 jobs. We so desperately need jobs in this country, and I just don't understand why he would veto a bipartisan piece of legislation like this.
If he does veto it, is it done? Is it over? Because Republicans have been trying to get this to pass now for years.
Oh, I don't think we're ever going to give up. I mean, this is too important for us that I think we will continue to try to push the passage of the Keystone XL pipeline. You just can't give up.
Well, mindful of that, yesterday the vote total in the House, Congresswoman, I think a total of 270 votes. Now, to override a veto, I guess, do you believe if it comes down to it, at least in the House, you could override a presidential veto?
I don't believe we have enough votes to override the presidential veto. And by the way, when you ask members of the same party as the president to override a veto, I think it gets a little bit more difficult. So I don't, unfortunately, think we're going to be able to have the support to do that.
TransCanada has been very critical of EPA. Any progress there? Because they've already invested, $3 billion into the Keystone Pipeline?
Not to my knowledge. All I know is that, President Obama's own State Department had conducted 5 reviews of the Keystone Pipeline, and they concluded that it's in the best interest of our economy and the environment. In fact, which you probably know, the latest environmental review found that there would be greater safety and environmental risk in not building the pipeline. So, these government regulations, these environmental regulations, it's been proven that this is the best thing for us to build. And again, I'm just stumped as why the president won't support it.
About a minute remains, actually only about 30 seconds, Congresswoman Walters. You hail from California. Out there, you've got Jerry Brown wanting to build that big train. There's a guy willing to build a big project, yet this common sense pipeline can't get done. How do you deal with that?
I don't know, but I have to tell you that the high-speed rail is a no-go for me in California. That just does not make sense. It's going to cost you more money to ride that high-speed rail than it is to fly to Northern California by the time they get done building that.
Representative Mimi Walters, we thank you for your time. Know you're very busy in Washington with a lot of votes. Thanks for making time for us here today on America's Forum.
Thanks again for having me.
It's a very interesting job, having held the job in Congress, where everything on the schedule comes right down to the minute. And so the Congresswoman was great to join us. In fact, it's kind of like television, where it's kind of time sensitive, and I see on the clock here we have a little more than 30 seconds, just enough time to tell you that following this program, it is Midpoint with Ed Berliner at high noon in the East. That'll be followed by the Steve Malzberg Show at 3 o'clock Eastern, and then at 6 p.m. Eastern, The Daily Wrap, hosted by Joe Concha. Enough time to put a wrap on this program. Always good to share this anchor desk with Miranda Kahn. Thanks also to Larry Elder, who co-hosted our second hour today, Michael Reagan, who was in studio, and to all of you, thanks for watching. Stay brave, stay free, and stay tuned.